Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a quick, insightful talk on the rise of the divine masculine, which I do have a video on, but specifically how this actually brings out the the broken spirit of the masculine. In the rise of the divine masculine, you will find even more passionate uh, entities coming out, expressing their pain, their trauma. And this, I think, becomes very odd to the normality of things because in a system of very heavy patriarchy, this also holds down the spirit of the divine masculine. So when you're dealing with the rise of the divine masculine, we are seeing that very thing. And so it's a process of healing that requires, I guess, a farsightedness in seeing that everything is working out, everything being exposed about how certain men think, how certain men feel, is an important part of the process in order for things to have more resolve. So some of my observations in the broken spirit of the masculine comes from a fatherless son, but also a son who desires or father's love. So the father could be in the house, but still not loving in the way that is required and necessary for the masculine. The lack of a father's love puts the masculine, especially in his most innocence, where he could be in places of feeling powerlessness. And so this is why you actually see the expression of two contrasting parts of him becoming very fragmented too. So the masculine who feels passive and can't do anything is just as equal to the masculine who overpowers, forces, and even sometimes puts on, takes on violence. And these are the fragments of him in powerless states where either he was accused, right, and his innocence was tainted, like being accused of something, being punished for something, even though maybe too harshly, or for something that innocently he didn't understand, it wasn't guided to do it properly. So that harsh punishment can create this sense of powerlessness. And, this can happen from either the mother or the father. But from my experiences, the harsh punishment that comes out of the feminine are some of the things that I have been observing in the rooms that I've been in. So this harsh punishment creates this powerlessness, right? You can't really do anything until maybe you get bigger, right? But as a child, the masculine needs to still retain his innocence. And that is one of the things that I think we really see is a problem right now as the rise of the divine masculine happens. So the next thing that I would say this occurs in is when the young child or more teenage actually deals with seeing his mother in powerless situations. So this evokes out of his masculine as as his body is developing to, especially in the teenage years when you've got, hormones at their peak. So the body is trying to regain its sense of masculinity through physicality, right? And so this is a person who experiences clearly that the father figure, right? I'm going to use cliche examples. The father figure, whether it be his father or stepfather or the man in the mother's life, is actually too overbearing to the mother, right? And so when you experience this as a young masculine, your physicality reinforcing its strength, and there's a desire to protect that starts to come that is starting to bud within them. But what if he still feels powerless even though he has all of this strength too? So and I'm speaking specifically of a teenager, but then if you think about a younger kid, like he also still may feel that need to protect, but he's even less stronger. So he's even more emotionally turbulent in what exactly to do, because they naturally can sense that this is not right when you have that extra force, power, or manipulation or violence, actual violence happening towards their mother. So this is just one angle, one aspect, but as you can see in its fragments, that even though it's one angle, it can have varying outcomes, right? You can have someone who's completely passive, right? And so he's subjugated to more violence, sometimes from men or women, depending on what his trauma was, right? And so these ones, they're more passive. They'll do very little because they maybe were more younger. Maybe I'm not really sure, but their physicality isn't developed, or they've repressed it, and so it just doesn't. It hasn't been developed, right? So then you have the the one who may have experienced this. I think this would be the tendency. I'm not a doctor or a psychologist, so I'm not really sure, but just making theories, that the one who may experience it in teenage years and wants to physically protect, right? He actually either succeeds or doesn't. But through this way that his energy, his fire had to do with protecting his mother from the father figure, he can be really harsh to everybody, to men and women, and may have more of the ability to do more physical violence. So I think depending on the trauma and what age, you can get more of the tendency of one or the other. So the biggest thing about this, that from my point of view, so this is definitely a conversation that requires and needs a lot of different people's point of views. But from my point of view, especially in the room that I was in today, where they told me that empathy is not necessary, I definitely conclude that it is the lack of the father's love for that man who was going through those traumas that really hurts, because it's that abandonment of the seed, basically. Abandonment issues from the mother are also another. It would be a completely different topic, but this is the topic that I want to talk about, which is the pathology of if you don't have a father who loves you truly, right, and you have that connection with him early in life, you feel abandoned, and so you'll choose these two survival techniques, right? Either extremely passive or extremely too physical, extremist, and violent in order to survive. And the way that I came about this was that I actually sat in myself. Now, because I have a female body, I can't really experience it, but through my inner work, I've been really tapping into that work. And so when I tap into like what it means to go through trauma, right, and you know that something loves you versus something doesn't, it's a very different approach to how you resolve it. And this is what the divine masculine needs. It needs resolve. So what I'm saying is that you can't always change the trauma, right? But you can't change the trauma, and you can't always control what happens to the two sons. But when they have a relationship of unconditional love, right, from the father, in whatever capacity that father has omitted that, because there's different techniques and different ways of doing it. But if they have that security of unconditional love from the father, their masculinity protects them in those situations, and they actually don't have to fragment as extreme as they do. I hope that this makes sense, but basically unconditional love for the masculine is really important from both parents. But when it's lacking in the father, this is where I see this extremism. that I theorize comes to, and this is my conclusion on it thus far. So what now needs to happen with these videos where I talk about the broken feminine spirit and the male spirit is your input, your feedback. Where do you think I'm missing? Where do you think I need to direct my attention some more to? And so we can really create this as a community. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video.